Okay, so today's daf is daf Lamed Vav in Yebmot, as we learned for 4 Shlem for Yosef Israel ben Chaim Michal and for Elosa ben Ruma. And today, of course, we learn for Aliyas Neshama, for Eli Landau, Shmuel Elia ben Tzvi Halevi, who used to learn with us just over 2 years ago. He was sitting right here in our base medrash, and he was one of the first people who was nifter from the pandemic. Now, yesterday we got down to Amar Abelazar, about halfway down on the page on Daf Lamed Vav. Amar Abelazar. We had a machlokes between Shlakish and Rabbi Yochanan. What happens is if he does chalitza or bia on a woman who's mu'uberes? What happened? The husband died, Reuven died, and Shimon didn't wait long enough, and he performed either chalitza or yibum on Leah. Then it turned out she was pregnant. So we had a machlokes in the Gemara between Rabbi Yochanan. So we said, look, if it turns out that there is a child, so of course he has to divorce her because there's no mitzvah. If there is no child, Mishnah said that if the vlad is a ben krama, so first of all, if he did chalitza, then and she had a child, so the chalitza is meaningless, right? Doesn't do anything. But let's say he married her, he consummated with Leah, and she had a baby. If the vlad is a baby, is a veiled baby, he has to divorce her, and chayav a carbon because he slept with a woman he wasn't supposed to sleep with. If the vlad doesn't survive, then he can marry her. That's what we said in the Mishnah. He can marry her. Now, according to Rabbi Yochanan, he's already married to her because the bia that he did on the pregnant woman counts. Either the bia or the chalitza counts. According to Shlakish, no, the bia, the chalitza on the pregnant woman doesn't count. It doesn't count until she's actually without a child, right? Until if she indeed has a child at the end of the day, so then at that point the child potters up the Leah, and if she had a tzara, potters him up from any obligation for yibum chalitza. And if the child is not viable, the child does not survive. According to Rish Lakish, you need a new yibum or a new chalitza. We said question came up yesterday. Moshe asked if you did chalitza and then it turns out the baby died, can you do yibum subsequently? Probably not, because once you rejected her, then you probably can't marry her afterwards. Even though you say, according to Shlokish, that the rejection doesn't count, the chalitza doesn't count. According to Rabbi Yochanan, the chalitza and the yibum is a good yibum or chalitza. In other words, it's valid even on the pregnant woman. Okay, so we had this machlokus, and we said we were going to see that we paskin like Rish Lakish over here, that the yibum chalitza on a pregnant woman doesn't count. So if you did yibum and she was pregnant, and then turned out the baby wasn't viable, so you really could have done yibum, but you shouldn't have done it while she was pregnant. It doesn't count. You have to do yibum again. If you did chalitza, you got to do chalitza again. Amar Abelazar. So we have smack in the middle of the page. Amar Abelazar. Is it possible that there is a Mishnah that confirms Rish Lakish's opinion below Tanan Lamastisa? Is it possible that Rish Lakish is correct? That a yibum or chalitza done on a pregnant woman, regardless of whether the baby is going to survive or not, it doesn't count. It doesn't have any meaning. Is that possible? Is it possible that we find that Rish Lakish's memra that he holds is not listed in any Mishnah or Tamas Disim? It's not in a Mishnah. Let's look if we can find confirmation from a Mishnah. Nafak, he went out, Dak, he checked, Dashkech, and he found the Tanan. We have a Mishnah later says like this. Let's say this happened. Reuven had 2 wives, Leah and Sarah the Tzara, okay? And there were no children. And Reuven went overseas with his wife, with Sarah, the Tzara, left Leah at home. Not a good feeling, right, for Leah. Then word came back years later, whenever it came back, not now, years later, word came back, he died. We got a telegram, he died. Okay. So they came and told her, not a telegram. Adam came and said, Mace Balach, your husband died. What's her situation right now? Leah's situation. Can she just remarry? Let's say there's a brother Shimon at home also, right? Can you do yibum? Maybe Sarah had a child, right? They were away for a while, right? Maybe they had a child. Now, the assumption is that even though they went away for a long time, had they had a child, he died, and he died with no children. There were no children. If there were children, then they would have told him, then she could get remarried right away, right? She's mutter to marry the shuk. But they came and they told him that, no, he died and there were no children at the time, right? There were no children. So what does he say here? She should never get remarried. She shouldn't marry. She shouldn't make even. She couldn't marry the shuk. She couldn't marry somebody in the street. She shouldn't make even until she finds out Shemamu Beres Hitzarasa. He died right now with no children, but maybe Sarah, who's with him, went with him to Vegas 5-10 years ago. Maybe she's pregnant now. Maybe he died now, but she's still pregnant. Now, what's the deal? What's the deal? So Bishlama, let's understand this. Huh?
During the time that he was away.
Let's assume that wherever time they were away, the word came back that he died and he had left no children. That's what the Wadim came back. He died and left no children.
What time frame are we talking?
Any time frame. Any time frame.
No, if it's more than 9 months, what's the question?
No. Okay. Wait. That's good. That's what we're going to deal with right now. At this point in time, how long is it since they left? Since the couple left? A long time, 5-10 years. It doesn't make any difference. But the word came back that he's dead. Now, Rumi's asking, good. What time frame are we seeing? So he says she should never get married forever. That's the Gemara's asking now. That's the Gemara seems to say. She should never get married either to the shuk or shouldn't form yibum to Shimon, the brother who was around. Till she knows Shimon bears Yitzras. Maybe the tzara is pregnant right now. Now, if you knew for sure that there were no children and she's not pregnant, then what would you say? She has to do yibum to Shimon, yibum or chalitza. And if there was for child, then she's free to marry if there was a child. But at this point, he died with no children, and we don't know her status. We don't know. So it says, that's what he's asking.
Why not just do chalitza?
Okay, we'll see. So we'll see. We'll talk about that. So let's assume she doesn't want to be forbidden to marry a Kohen, right? If it gets chalitza, she can't marry a Kohen midrabanan. So she doesn't want to just do chalitza. Also, that's a good question. If you do, we're going to discuss this indeed. The more I'm going to ask it, but just to answer your question, if Sarah is pregnant at the time, he died and he left her pregnant, right? Left her pregnant overseas. If you do chalitza and the other one's pregnant, it doesn't count according to her shlokish.
Sure, so the chalitza is not a chalitza.
Okay, so what can she? So she can't get married. She can't.
She has a baby and she goes out.
No. Okay, well, she doesn't have a baby. Sarah is overseas. She's in Vegas now with no communications, no cell phone. We don't know. We don't know what her situation is. All we know is, listen. All we know is that he died with no children, and we don't know whether Sarah is pregnant or not. So it says over there, apparently, she shouldn't get married to anybody, and she shouldn't until she finds out whether she's pregnant or not. So the Gemara asks these questions. Let's see what the Gemara asks to see if your questions answer. I understand why she can't make yibum right now to Shimon. Why? Shema yev vlad ben kayama. Maybe Sarah will have a child. Maybe she's pregnant. Maybe she'll have a child. And if there's a child, what's the deal? Eishazach. You can't have yibum, right? That means the brother died, Reuben died with children, and you can't have yibum. In fact, it's eishazach. It's karas.
Maybe I can free. She's finished. She goes out.
Maybe.
If she had a baby,
right? But you can't go. You can't. We're talking about look word at a time. Why can't you do yibum? Bishlama yibuma lo shema yevla ben kayama v'ifka b'sayishazach. If she marries Shimon when the brother Reuven had a baby, right? That's eishazach. Doraisa, which is in the Doraisa. There was a baby. She can't marry Shimon. Ela lo tachlo. Here's your question. Why do you say she shouldn't do chalitza? Why shouldn't she do chalitza? You're not sure what the story is. They do chalitza. Ela tachlotz amai. Why not do chalitza, which is what you asked? Bishlo metachlotz betoch tes v'tinas betoch tes. Rashi goes through whole arichos to explain why this is the correct year. So let's say she shouldn't do chalitza in middle of the 9 months. Why can't she do chalitza right away? That's your question. Do chalitza and she's free to marry. Bishlo metachlotz betoch tes v'tinas betoch tes. She shouldn't do chalitza immediately, meaning within 9 months of the time that he died. The clock is only ticking. That's maybe what Rumi was asking. The clock is ticking now. Once she heard that he died, they have Adam that he died. Let's say that he died on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So you know when he died. Okay, so now you start counting 9 months from there, right? So you say, I understand why you can't do chalitza in the middle of that 9 months and get married then. Hainu Suffolk, that's we're not sure. What does that mean, Hainu Suffolk? Rashi says a little bit below where we are now, the Hainu Suffolk, Shemi Evlad Sarosa Ben Kayam. And maybe he will be a Ben Kayam, maybe he will survive. Ve'ein bia chalitza, ve'ein bia b'chalitza poteres. Ela Vlad, as we said before, everybody holds, even Rabbi Yochanan holds, if the baby is viable and survives, the whole machlokas was if you have bia or chalitza, machlokas v'shlakish and Rabbi Yochanan, on a baby that doesn't survive, on a pregnancy where the child doesn't live. That was the machlokas. Rabbi Yochanan says it's still a good bia or chalitza. Shlokish says it's not. But everybody agrees if the child is going to be viable, that the bia or chalitza doesn't help. The chalitza doesn't help there either. So I understand why you can't do chalitza in the middle of 9 months. Why can't do chalitza? Because chalitza on a situation where either her or her co-wife has a viable baby doesn't work. So bishlam betachlas betochtas betinas betochtas lo hainu suffik, and that's what Rashi says. That's the suffik, right? Hainu suffik shemi evlad sarasa ben kayama ben diva chalitza poteras el evlad vavlad and a potar shasarvon. What potters her from yibam or chalitza when the child is born and the child's not born yet? So in middle of from the time that he died for 9 months, she has to be concerned that maybe the Sarah is pregnant, maybe she's going to have a child, and you can't do chalitza or bia now, even according to Rabbi Yochanan. It doesn't help while the woman is pregnant with a viable child. We don't know if it's going to be viable, but it's possible it's going to be viable. And if it's viable, bia chalitza wouldn't help now until the child's born. So you got to wait the 9 months. So I understand why Leah over here back home should not do yibam, right? She can't do yibam because maybe there'll be a child. And I also understand why can't you do chalitza? Okay, chalitza within the 9 months. I understand that won't work. That's not going to work until the baby's born. Why can't you do this? Do chalitza in the middle of the 9 months, even now. And then she's free to marry after the 9 months. Why? If you say, according to Rabbi Yochanan, this is the proof to Rish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan says that if you could do a chalitza or a chalitza on you could do chalitza on a pregnant woman, and it works. Why does it work? If the baby's not going to survive, chalitza works according to Rabbi Yochanan. According to Rish Lakish, you wouldn't. But here's the proof to Rish Lakish. Why? If you hold like Rabbi Yochanan, do the chalitza right away. As soon as you heard the news, do chalitza with Shimon and get married after 9 months. Manavshach. Why? Get married manavshach. Why? After 9 months, there's either a baby or there's no baby, according to Rabbi Yochanan. If there's a baby, so the baby potters him, right? The baby is potters him. The chalitza could be meaningless, but they had a baby, so she can get married l'shuk. And if the baby doesn't survive, according to Rabbi Yochanan, then the chalitza is a good chalitza. So if you hold like Rabbi Yochanan, here's the proof to Rish Lakish. Because why does it say over there that she shouldn't get married and she shouldn't form yibam? Yibam, I understand why she shouldn't make yibam, because maybe there's going to be a baby. But why can't you do chalitza? Chalitza within 9 months and getting married within 9 months, that I understand you can't do. Why? Because if the baby survives, the baby doesn't potter them up until the baby's born, as we saw. So I understand why she can't marry. She can't for sure marry within 9 months. That's for sure, right? She can't marry for 9 months because maybe her co-wife is pregnant, is going to have a baby. And if she has a baby, there's no yibam. And even if she does, and if she has a baby, even if she doesn't have a baby, the baby is not viable. So you can't get married until after 9 months because maybe there will be a baby. Maybe the baby will live, so you can't have months. And you can't, and the chalitza won't help the chalitza before 9 months and getting married after 9 months won't, because maybe there'll be a baby. And if there'll be a baby, the chalitza will not be good. The chalitza won't help until the baby's actually born. So I understand why you can't, but why can't you? So I understand why you can't get married within 9 months under any circumstance. Maybe will be a baby and there's no yibam, or maybe there'll be a baby. Maybe there'll be a baby and you can't get married. If there's a baby, the chalitza yibam won't help within 9 months. So I understand, but why can't you do this? He says, Ella lo tachlis amai bishlam b'tochtes b'tkanas b'tochtes lo hainu safek, right? Ella tachlis b'tochtes. Let her give the chalitza in the middle of the 9 months and get married after the 9 months. Memonavshach, right? That's what Rashi says. Now, Rashi goes on to explain. Ella tachlis b'tochtes b'tkanas lachtes memonavshach. If the Sarah, the co-wife who went overseas, is mapil, right? or if she's not pregnant at all, so the chalitza is good, according to Rabbi Yochanan. And if it's a vla b'kayama, so the baby's born now, so the baby patches. So why do you say you can't get married at all? Let her get chalitza in the middle of the 9 months and get married after 9 months. Right? And therefore, this proves Rabbi Yochanan, because according to Rabbi Yochanan, she should be able to get chalitza in the middle of the 9 months. Why will that work? Well, it won't work if she has a baby, but wait till after the 9 months to have the baby. Since the time that he died, there's no way he could have impregnated her after he died. Right? When he died, correct. Either the Adam came and said your husband died. If they don't know the date, so count the 9 months from today, from the day they reported it. If they know he died 6 weeks ago, so count the 6 months from then. In those days, there was no way to impregnate a wife after death. Today they take out the labs, they could do whatever they want today, right? But in those days they couldn't. So why can't you get married after 9 months? So therefore it proves the chorah, not like Rabbi Yochanan, because according to Rabbi Yochanan, you could do chalitza in the middle of the 9 months and get married after the 9 months. Again, if the baby's going to survive, so after 9 months, the baby had a baby. And if the baby's not going to survive, the chalitza anyway was good, according to Rabbi Yochanan. So why didn't you do that? So therefore it's a proof to Rish Lakish that what? That the chalitza won't help in the middle of the 9 months. The chalitza won't help because chalitza of an muberes doesn't help according to Rish Lakish at all. Says the Gemara, okay, even according to Rish Lakish, will tamech tichlutz f'tanase lachates. Okay, so let's assume, you prove, according to Rabbi Yochanan, she could have gotten chalitza in the middle of the 9 months and get married after 9 months. Well, even according to Rish Lakish, that says you can't do chalitza on a muberes, why does it say you can't get married at all? Wait the whole 9 months, take a break for 9 months because you don't know what's going on. After 9 months, she either wasn't pregnant, had a baby that wasn't viable, or had a baby that was viable. Anyway, after 9 months, she's free to get married. She's free to get married, right? Right? She's free to get married. So after chalitza, after 9 months, you have chalitza. Maybe there's no baby at all, and there was never a baby, and you need yibum. But if she has chalitza after 9 months, if she does chalitza, according to everybody who works after 9 months, because after 9 months, there's no way that she could be pregnant. There's no way she could be pregnant. Okay, so there's no way, right? So from Ruvain, right? From her husband, right. Yeah, that's true. But if it's not from Ruvain, then there's not a problem of Yibam anyway. There's a different problem. You have a mom, so if it's not related to Ruvain. Right. Even there would still be. So to make tichlutz with us, just wait till the whole 9 months, do chalitza then, and then do Yibam. What's the problem? Elabarmina, you can't ask you proof from over there. Why? Dabai Barav and Barav Chinrabav, because they were brothers. They both say Shemi Vlad Ben Kaim. You know what the problem over there is? The reason why we say over there that you shouldn't do chalitza is why? Because we're afraid maybe she will have a child. But here's the problem. It's possible she'll have a child. What's the concern over there? You can't prove anything from over there. Over there, the reason you don't do chalitza is because we're afraid if you do chalitza, and then she really has a baby overseas. So what's the deal then? We said in the Mishnah, everybody agrees with that. If you do chalitza and it turns out she had a baby, so the chalitza doesn't count. He can marry her relatives, she can marry his relatives, right? It doesn't count, and she's not puzzled from kahuna. But what's our concern? Our concern is you're going to have to announce that the chalitza didn't count. Right? What happened over here? We're afraid. Why say over there don't do chalitza? It says why? Because it says she shouldn't get married at all. Why? Shouldn't get married at all, even after 9 months. Doesn't make any difference why after 9 months. You know why? You don't do chalitza until she should first ascertain whether the woman don't do anything. Mishnah, don't do anything until you ascertain whether she had a baby or not. Whether the tzara in Vegas had a baby or not. Why? Because if you give her chalitza, could really be like Rabbi Yochanan. You can give her chalitza right now. Wait 9 months to get remarried, to be sure. But you can give her the chalitza right now. The problem is if you give her chalitza now, and then it turns out that Sarah had a baby, what's the chalitza? Meaningless, right? And now you have to announce, you should know she's mutter to marry a Kohen. So what's wrong with that? You'll have to announce, you require her to get a cruise lacuna. You require her to get a public announcement that the chalitza was meaningless and she can marry a Kohen. So what's wrong with that? So require that. There might have been people who heard about the chalitza, that this woman Leah got chalitza back home, and they didn't hear the subsequent email that went out telling him that the chalitza was meaningless. People will say, well, send him another message. They might have heard the first message, not the second message. People will think that she's a chalutza can marry a Kohen. Because people will think she was a chalutza, she got chalitza. And then they didn't hear that the chalitza was meaningless, the whole story. They say, hey, that woman got chalitza, how is she marrying a Kohen? And then people are going to say that you're allowed to, a chalitza is allowed to marry a Kohen. So it's all because of that reason. So you can't prove anything from over there, because according to your reason, if the problem is she shouldn't get married at all, why not give her chalitza after the 9 months? Just start the whole thing after 9 months when there's no problem at all. There's either a baby or there's no baby, but either way, you can do chalitza and get married l'shuk. The answer is we're afraid to give her chalitza when you'd have to revoke it afterwards. Amalei Abaya, there's no proof from there. Amalei Abaya, lo tachlis lo tisyamitani. Why do you have this whole proof to begin with that this is Reish Lakish? Because why couldn't you do chalitza within? If it would be like Rabbi Yochanan, do chalitza in the 9 months, get married after 9 months. The Mishnah doesn't mention she shouldn't do chalitza. Lo tachlis lo tisyamitani. Does it say she shouldn't do chalitza and shouldn't do yibum? Lo tinasev lo tisyamitani. It means you shouldn't get married either to Shimon or to the Shuk, below Chalitza. But ain't Mechnami, maybe Rabbi Yochanan, this bishop could even go like Rabbi Yochanan. You can get Chalitza right away, give her Chalitza, but wait 9 months in case there's a baby. Why? Because if there's a viable baby, it doesn't pater until after 9 months. But the Chalitza on the Muberes, right? Either way, either there's a baby after 9 months and you didn't need the Chalitza, or if there's no baby, you did a Chalitza on a Muberes, which is okay, but wait 9 months just to be sure. So maybe it could even go like Rabbi Yochanan. It doesn't say you can't do chalitza. It says that she shouldn't get married below chalitza. Maybe it's mutter. So you can't prove anything. So at the end of the day, this is not a proof to Rish Lakish at all. We have a machlokes between Rish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan when you have a baby that's not viable at the end. Because if the baby survives, the baby doesn't pater up until after it's born. But if there was a baby that was not viable, then what? Then does the chalitza even on a woman who's pregnant help or not? According to Rabbi Yochanan, it does. According to Rish Lakish, it doesn't. Tiny Kavos of Rish Lakish, we have a brice like Rish Lakish, Acholitz and Muberes. If you have some Muberes, the appeal, and then she miscarried, you still need chalitz. And we said yesterday, Menachin, according to Tosas, means even this brother who gave a chalitz can give a Menachin, could mean the brothers of Ruvain. Or some of Forshim say, that his chalitza is weaker already because he gave it one, so you still need chalitza from the other. So Rish Lakish says, if you give chalitza to a woman who's pregnant and the baby doesn't survive for whatever reason, you need another chalitza. And that's the brisa like him. And Rava said now, Rava, like we mentioned this yesterday, the halach is like Rish Lakish mani class. Normally in machlokes Rish Lakish we pass like Rabbi Yochanan. Here the machlokes here we pass like Rish Lakish. Right? In 3 cases. What are the 3 cases? Chada had amr. One, the one we just mentioned, that if you have chalitza on a muberes and it doesn't survive, you need another chalitza. Chada amr. Idach, what were the other 2 cases? The Tanam we learn like this. If a person doesn't want to give all his sons the same amount in a Yerusha, he can give it by a matana. That's how all the rules about avoiding Yerusha, the rules of Yerusha, that only the boys get, not the girls, and the Bechor gets a double share, all that. The way to avoid that is with a will, either oral or written, where you give it as a gift before death, because the rule of Yerusha helps only at death if the father hasn't said anything. Rashi uses a nice lashon. He says that Stam Yerusha is bishtika, when nothing was said. When nothing was said, those are the rules of Yerusha. If there was no, the father didn't say anything otherwise. He didn't. But if he gives it with a gift, then there's no problem. So it's just like this. A person's giving away dividing up his assets to his children. He gave one more, one less. Of course, that's going to ensure that the kids will never talk to each other again. But if he gave one more to one and less to another, he gave the Bechor the same amount as the other ones. In other words, he went against the laws of Yerusha and the Torah, but he did it by a gift. It's okay. Dvar of Kayama, his words are valid and they take effect because he gave it as a gift. Yerusha is only at the time of death. Before death, you could do whatever you want with your money. You can give it all away, like Buffett gave 99% of his money, gave away to charity. You can do whatever you want. V'im Omar, if he said Mishum Yerusha, if he said I'm giving it, I want my children to inherit this money this way with use inheritance, then it's no good, because he went against what was written in the Torah, right? Because the Torah says this is how Yerusha works. If you want to avoid that, give it away before death. Do whatever you want before you die. You can do whatever you want with your money. But at the time of death, if you didn't specify otherwise, These are rules. Kosev. Now, if he mentioned Yerusha anywhere, says the Tanna Kama, Bein B'Tchila, Bein B'Sof, Bein B'Emsa. If he mentions the word Yerusha anywhere in there, the word gift rather, anywhere in there, Mishum Matana Dvarv Kayam. In other words, even if he says, Rashi says, if he says it at the beginning, in the middle, at the end, and Rashi tells us where there's a couple lines from the bottom of the page, 2 lines from the bottom page, he says, Ploni Yirash Sada, Plonis, Ploni Sada, Sanas, it doesn't work. But if he mentions Matana anywhere, or the last line of the page, Betchila, Tinasan Sada, Plonis, the Ploni Virashana, he says, I want this field to go to my son Ruvain and let him inherit it. But he mentioned giving it. He mentioned as a gift, Tinasan should be given. Or Be'emtzi, he says, Yersha, he should inherit the Tinasan lo Yersha. He mentioned there Matan in the middle. Or Besof, Yersha v'Tinasan lo. If he mentions gift anywhere in there, it's okay. It's a gift and it's valid. And that's how to avoid the laws of Yerusha. And of course, my recommendation is that everybody should do that. In other words, make sure you have a will to avoid problems at the end. If you have daughters, if you have a bechor, whatever, if you want everybody to get an equal share, so make sure you have a will. It works even, as he says, even if he said it, he didn't have to actually al peh. If he said it al peh, it works also. But better to have a will to avoid issues. V'amar Shlakish, and Shlakish says, La'olam lo kana ad sheyomer ploni yirshu sada ploni plonis shenasatim leb matana v'yirashim. Rashi explains that Shlakish is not arguing on the Mishnah. The Mishnah says as long as you say gift anywhere in there, it's okay. But the shaila is, do you have to say gift to each and every one of the children? So Rashi says, Lo mastisin by top Rashi, Elos meishnachim pligi amaroy b'diuka the mastisin. The chiyasa rabban over yavish plani v'sada plonis. The tinas v'sada plonis. Rabbi Yochanan Amar kana afilu hai diarusha. The beit kolash matana b'haishtar tzava l'chad menayu kulam. Rabbi Yochanan says, even if he says, listen, I want Ruvain to inherit this field, and Shimon should get that field as a gift. That's good enough. Even though when he mentioned Reuven, he said Yerusha, and when he said Shimon, he said gift, but he said gift in the whole will. That's good enough for gift for everybody. Rish Lakish says no. Rish Lakish Amar L'olam Lo Kana Hu Yerusha Daminan LaHayu Matana LaHayu Yerusha Ad She Omer, until he has to say the word gift when he mentions each kid. He has to mention that each child should get gift. That's Rish Lakish's opinion. This is the second case where he passed like Rish Lakish as opposed to Rabbi Yochanan. The first is our case that Biur Chalitza does not help on a woman who's pregnant and is going to have and not going to have a viable child. And if it's going to have a viable child, for sure it doesn't work. Rish Lakish, Biur or Chalitza does not help on a pregnant woman. And this is the second halacha that Rish Lakish says that when you give a will, each child has to be mentioned in terms of the gift. I guess if you say all of them are getting the equal gift, that's good enough too. So that's Rish Lakish's second opinion. The second thing. What's the third thing that we hold like Rabbi Yochanan? Matana, V'Yosham. The Edach, what's the third case that we passed Rabbi Yochanan tonight? No, La'achar, listen to this case. A man says, I'm giving everything to my son from today. After I die, I'm giving it all to my son from today. Mafreya, it should be chal from today, I'm giving to my son. Now, what does that mean? After he dies, the son's going to get it from today, right? But what happens until he dies? So the halacha over there is ha'av and yachalimkor. The father cannot sell that field. Let's say he gave it to his son from today, from 2022, and he's not going to die till whatever, for another 50 years. So the father can't sell it because he's already given it to the son, right? It's going to be chal from today. But the son can't sell it. It's still nushus of the father, right? What does the father really have in it? Technically, what he really has in it is the rights to use the field, right? He has the payros. That's the payros. But the son can't sell it because it's still in the father's. It's not the son's yet until the father dies. Okay, that's the rule. Now, mochara av, if the father sells the field, mechur achiyamos who? What is he selling? He's selling the rights that he has. If he does sell it, all he's selling is the rights that he has, which is the rights to use the field until such time as he dies. So whoever bought it gets that. Machar ben, if the son sells it, ein lokeach klum achiyamos av. If he sells it, what does the son have? The son has the rights to it when the father dies. So he hasn't sold him anything yet. Ve'itmar, we learned over there, machar ben b'chaya. What happens if the son sold it? What does he sold? Nothing. He's selling only after he dies. Umeis haben, and then the son died before the father The son only gets it when the father dies. Let's say the son sold it and the son died before the v'chayav. Rabbi Yochanan says lo kana lokech. It doesn't get anything. Reish Lakish says kana lokech. Lokech does work. So the Yorshim of the son will get it posthumously after the father died, right? So Reish Lakish says lokech gets it. Lokech gets it. What does that mean? So here's the deal. Rabbi Yochanan says lo kana lokech. Why? Because the son never got it. The son never got it. Let's say the son had no Yorshim. A good example, the son had no Yorshim, only the father. When the father died, there was nothing. So the question is, does the purchaser, if the son sold it while the father was alive, and then the son never got it because he died before his father, Rabbi Yochanan says Lokech doesn't get it because the son never had the right to sell it until the father died. Rish Lakish says Kana Lokech. Why? Rabbi Yochanan lo Kana Lokech. The fact is, since he had rights to use it, right? Who had the right? The father owns it right now. The son doesn't have the right to sell it because the father owns it right now. The father has rights to use it, and it'll never go. If you tell me the son will get it, that after the son dies, will the lokech get it then? That's the issue. Well, he says, listen, right now the son had no right to sell it right now. And therefore, only the father did, because the father's kinyan parish like King Yuf. Reish Lakish Amar, and this is how we pass Reish Lakish. The fact that the father had the right for the payers for usage right now, he didn't really own it. So therefore, when the father eventually dies, it will go to the son posthumously. Posthumously, after the father died, it goes to the son retroactively, and then the lokech will get it. So that's why Reish Lakish says that the lokech does get it. Kinyan payers is lafkin. The fact that the father had rights in it does not preclude the son from selling it. What is the son selling? The rights that he has after the father died. Even though the son died before, but before he died, he sold those rights that he had in it, and therefore it's valid. According to Rabbi Yochanan, says even when the father dies, it's like a kinyan aguf. The ein mechiras a ben mechiras, says Rashi in Rabbi Yochanan. Umasis niktani ein lokech b'amklum ad shiyamas av. Hamatana. Never got it at all. Okay, so those are the three cases we pass in like Rish Lakish. Going back to our Mishnah, Mishnah said, "Ein avlad shel kayama." What happens? Let's say take our case again. Reuben died with no children, and what did Shimon do? He didn't wait. He took Leah for a wife. He consummated with her. And it turned out that she was pregnant. If she had a baby, right? If she had a baby, what's the deal? Bad news, right? Got to bring a carbon. There was no Yibam or Chalitza over here. There's no Yibam Chalitza, mitzvah. So he has to divorce her. And he has to get rid of her. To bring a carbon. Yotze means he has to exit her. The Chalitza, the Yibam didn't affect anyway because it was usher. It was also for her to marry. It was covered, so you don't even need to get in that case. Just get rid of her because she's a shach shalom mitzvah, and you have to bring carbon. In ein avlad shel kayama, let's say the child doesn't survive. So then what do? He was a bad boy, but he did perform yibam. They didn't have a child at the end. Yikayim. And we had a machlokus in the Gemara. What does yikayim mean? According to Rabbi Yochanan, that's it. He's married to her. If he wants to divorce her now, give her a get, but he's already married to her. According to instruction, you got to give her bia again because the bia that he did while she's pregnant doesn't count. So if the vlad does not live, the Mishnah said yikayim. Says our Gemara. Reb Lezer disagree with the Mishnah. Right? What did the Mishnah say? Yikayim. According to Rabbi Yochanan, you can keep her as a wife. Okay, you were a bad boy. You jumped the gun a little bit, right? You jumped the gun, but all right, it worked out okay. According to Reish Lakish, you jumped the gun. The yibam didn't help. You got to consummate again. Okay, Reb Lezer disagrees. No, you shouldn't stay married to her. Yotzi beget, and some have the gear, so Yotzi beget, and you shouldn't take her back at all. The rabbis constant you because you were a bad boy and you married her too early. You got to get rid of her now. Yotzi beget. That's Reb Lezer's opinion. Amarava, Rav Meir and Reb Lezer hold the same thing. This is Reb Eliezer ben Hirkas. Amarava, Rav Meir, who says something elsewhere, and Reb Lezer both hold the same idea that the rabbis, for you being a bad boy and jumping the gun, you're going to get punished and you have to get rid of her. Reb Lezer, this is what we just said. And again, according to, he says Yotzi beget. Yotzi beget really means what? Yotzi beget. According to Rabbi Yochanan, it works out Yotzi beget. According to Reish Lakish, Yotzi means the Yibam didn't really help. The consummation didn't help while she was pregnant. So according to Reish Lakish, you got to give her, let's say, chalitza and a get. According to Rabbi Yochanan, you give her a get, right? A get you shouldn't get because you're already married to her. According to Reish Lakish, you give her a get to make sure she's never marries it again, like keeping her away. But you'd still need chalitza according to Reish Lakish. But either way, you got to get rid of her. So Rabbi Lezer says, Yotzi beget, you can't stay married to her. He disagrees with our Mishnah. Our Mishnah said you can stay married to her or consummate it again. According to Reish Lakish, according to Rabbi Lezer, you can't stay married to her else it kanas. Amar Rava, Rav Meir, Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Lezer, Rav Meir, Tanya, a different case. Stam, a man should not marry. You should never marry somebody who's pregnant at the time or nursing. Why? As we said, because maybe if you don't leave time for her to have the baby, maybe she'll get pregnant again and she'll stop nursing and the first baby will die. So the rabbi said, do not marry somebody who's pregnant because you got to make sure that she's going to have milk, or if she's nursing, you got to wait till she's finishing everything, finished having the baby and finished nursing. V'imnasa, if you didn't listen to the rabbis. Yotzi v'lo yachzer olamas divra Meir. Meir says, if you did, we're going to give you a fine and you have to divorce her and never marry her again, never take her back. Divra Meir. Chacham says, say Yotzi. No, you just have to divorce her for now. Wait the 24 months, wait the time of nursing or pregnancy and nursing, whatever it was, wait till she's finished nursing and then you could take her back. It's right. But the mayor says, because he was a bad boy, you force him out of the marriage forever. So what did we say over here? Rava says, Rav Meir and Rav Lezer both hold this idea. Since you were a bad boy, you married it too early. In our case of Hebam, in that case of Stam, a woman who's nursing, we constantly you never marry her again. Amalei Abaya, how do you know that the cases are the same? Mimai, Dil Maloi, maybe they're not hold of one another. Adkan Lakom Rav Lezer, where Rav Lezer Hacha Elamishim the Kapag B'Yisrael. Here you married a woman, right? Who married a woman who could be also to Yeshizach. She's pregnant. You didn't wait. You didn't find out she's pregnant. Might be in a serious Yeshizach D'Oraisa. Okay, it turned out that she didn't have a baby of Kayava, but at the time you lived with her, you didn't ascertain. Maybe she's also to you. D'Oraisa. It's like marrying a woman who might be married to somebody. You're not sure, so you don't marry her. You first check it out. Here too, how can you marry Yeshizach if it's not Makam Mitzvah? So there it's a D'Oraisa. In the case of Rav Meir said, the rabbi said you shouldn't marry a woman who's nursing because you might come to dry up her milk and all that. The rabbi said that. Rabbi Drabanan, maybe also like Drabanan. Okay, divorce her for now, but you could take her back after the weaning period, after the baby's been weaned. So maybe Rav Lezer would not hold with Rav Meir. Inam York said the other way. Rav Meir say the case you have to divorce a woman who's pregnant, who's nursing now, and never take her back. Because it's Allah Rabbanan. The rabbis sometimes made their rules more stringent than the Torah because the Torah everybody stays away. Also, that's from the Torah. The rabbis are not so makbid about, so the rabbis made their rules stronger and they said never take her back. We told you not to marry a nursing woman, never take her back. But over here by Eishasach, you don't have to enact any more rules and say never take her back. You can never, you got to give her a get forever. People stay away from Mr. D'Oraisas anyway. In a regular case, a woman, Reuven died and left the wife Leah for Shimon. You like to wait a few months and check out if she's pregnant or not. People are pretty careful about that. So maybe Rav Meir would not go that far and say never take her back like Rav Lezer does in our case. So Rav Lezer and Rav Meir, although they're both stringent in their own cases, would not necessarily hold of one another. Amar Rava, even according to the Chum in this case, where you married a woman, you didn't wait till she finished nursing, and you married her. And what did the Chum say? You could take her back after she finished, after she weaned the baby, right? When she's not nursing anymore. Still, during that time, Yotzia beget, you got to give her a get. It's not enough just to say, I'll move back into my apartment and you stay in your apartment. You got to give her a get, make sure. Because he said, what did the Rabbanan say? Yotzi, take her, get rid of her, send her away. And when the time is finished, when she's finished nursing, then you can take her back. It says Yotzi, it didn't say Yafresh, just separate from her. It says Yotzi, which means again. Rav Ashi said to Rav Hoshia, notice that word of Hoshia. Rashi's going to say later on, it's really, Hoshia is like Yehoshua. Hoshea is like a form of Yeshua, because he calls him later on Yehoshua. Amalei Rav Ashi, Rav Hoshia, Bered Rabibi. Hassam over there, the Gemara in Shabbos, we're going to have it mentioned here later on, Gemara Nida. What's considered a viable child? If the child lived 30 days, it's not an aphel. Until 30 days by a human being, by Adam, it's 30 days. By animals, it's 8 days. But by a human being, if a baby lives 30 days, he's not an aphel. It's considered a chai, a viable baby. What's an afmina? We'll see. Hello, Shaw. If he didn't last 30 days, let's rachmas on a baby died after 20 days, whatever, didn't survive. Sveik, it's a suffix. Now, it's also, we know, it's if you know, that's if you don't know if it was full term. If it was full term, it's also a chai, even if it didn't last 30 days. But if you're not sure, the baby doesn't survive 30 days, it's a suffix. We're not sure if it was a baby or not. What does that mean? It's a suffix. If you don't know if Reuben died, left the wife Leah, and she had a baby, she was pregnant, she was in, and the baby didn't live 30 days. So you're not sure, did he pot or not? You have to do chalitza, not yibam. As we said, when you do chalitza, not yibam, either when the rabbi said, do chalitza, not yibam for their reasons, or when it's a suffix. This is a suffix. We don't know if it was a baby or not. Did the baby potter from yibam and chalitza or not? And you don't be yavam mashuk. And if there was a baby, you can't perform yibam. So you do chalitza. Let's say the baby died, and she got married to somebody else. Didn't say she got consummated the marriage. There was a baby that died within 30 days. We don't know. And she did kedushin with somebody else. Ravina made Rav Amar, what do you do now? Imeshus Israeli. So what do you do? Let's say she got engaged to somebody else. In Scotch, she got engaged to somebody else. But it's a suffix. What do we say in the case of suffix? What do you have to do? Chalitza. But she got engaged already to Yankel in the street. So what do you do? So, and Ravina, in the name of Rava, said, if she's married to if the kedushin was with a Yisrael, not a Kohen, give her chalitza now, even though she's engaged. Give her chalitza just to get rid of the problem of a possible yibam. Imeshus Kohen, the Enichalot says, if she's an Eishus Kohen and you give her chalitza, that would mean that he couldn't stay married to her. The Kohen wouldn't be able to. You have to give her a get now. So we rely on that there was a baby there and she was mutter to marry the shuk. We don't want to ask him. In other words, the odds are if there was a baby, there was probably chai. Rav Mishar Shemishmei, that was who said in the name of Rava, Ravina. Rav Mishar Shemishmei, Rav Amar, no. Either way, you can't take a chance. You get a chalitza, even if the guy who got engaged to her now was a Kohen and he'll have to divorce her. Amar Ravina, Rav Mashasha, Ravina, who heard one thing from Rava, and Rav Mashasha, who said no. That Rava said you got to give chalitza in either case. But what you heard is what Rava said at night. But in the morning he retracted. In other words, he said, "What's going on over here? There was a baby, so it was a baby. The odds are she can marry Lashuk. You don't need even. But misafik, give her chalitza. But if it's a Kohen, you're not going to ruin that, so you let him out." Rav Shash said, "No, either way, you have to give her chalitza." That was Rava told him. What Ravina told him. That was what you heard with Rava at night. You have to give her chalitza. But in the morning, he changed his mind. If she got engaged to a Kohen, you don't need chalitza. Amalei Sharisa, your matter, even a case like this where she's possibly what? She's possibly chayiv in yibum, and you're letting her get married l'shuk without chalitza. In the case where the Kohen got engaged to her, Amalei Sharisa, yeah, Rabba, let it be God's will. The Tishra of Tarbi could even be matter chaylev. In other words, like you're being Meiri Mekel over here. Maybe she needs chalitza. That's what the machlokus is over there. What happens in this case? What did we just say? Stama case, not a case of yibam. A man wants to get married to this woman whose husband died, let's say, or divorced. His husband died. And a Kohen got engaged to her. What did we just said? Machlokus Rav Meir and the Rabbanan, right? Rav Meir says, "Oh, you're a bad boy. Divorce her and never get married to her forever. You Kohen." What do the Rabbanan say? Just divorce her for now until she finishes weaning the baby, right? To finish weaning the baby. But what happens if the guy who married her is a Kohen, right? There, you say over there, if he's a Kohen, what did we said the name of Rava? No, you don't have to give her chalitza. But what about Hachagabu Beres Chavem Nexpero and Slukoin Mai? Me have a Rabbanan Takant Lakoin. Did the Rabbanan also make it Takant Lakoin? So listen, the rabbis just said, you're a bad boy because you got engaged to this girl before she weaned the baby, and if she loses her milk, the baby will die. So you're a bad boy. So, but divorce her for now. But what about over here with the guy's a Kohen? Did the Rabbanan say that even in the case of a Kohen, then he wouldn't be able to go low? When you compare Bishlam Mahasam, keeping the Rabbanan, the Pligal, Rabbi Shimon, over there, the Rabbanan arguing with Shimon, Afagav the Loshav, Vlad Ma'al Yahave. Right over there, I said, listen, even though, what did he say? Even if he didn't wait, it's a good bed. There, Shmuel says, what Rabbi Shmuel say? Kol sheshal b'adam lamed yom ain't an ephel. If you waited 30 days, it's not an ephel. Holo shah, it's a sveika. That's Rabbi Shmuel's opinion. But according to the Rabbanan over there, the Rabbanan say, even though you didn't wait 30 days, it's a good child. So there's a machlokas over there. So we say, Gabi Eishes Kohen, even though Efshar Abdin and Rabbanan. Right? Eishes Kohen, if he's going to divorce her now, he'll never be able to take her back. So we say, okay, we go like the Rabbanan, we have what to rely on. Shmuel says it's a suffix in Yichlitza. The Rabbanan of they disagree, and they say, even if you didn't wait the 30 days, even if he died after 20 days, it's a good child, and there's no yibum over there. And if she married Lashuk, it's okay. And therefore, we rely on that shita, and you don't need chalitza, right? Because if he gives her a get, he won't be able to marry her. We go to the rabbis. Right? So again, over there where there was a case of 30 days of yibum, and the baby died after 20 days. There's a sheet of the Rabbanan that it's a good baby, and therefore she got married to somebody else, no problem, and you don't need chalitza at all. You don't need chalitza at all. Okay, we go to Shmuel in a case if you married to Yisrael, give her chalitza to be Yotzei. But if you married a Kohen, so if you're going to Kohen, you don't have to give chalitza because you're going to ruin the whole thing, and we can go like the rabbis who say you don't need chalitza anyway. Avlocha, come on, no, but who are you going to go like? In the case where she went against the rabbi, where he went against the rabbis, and he married a woman who was nursing at the time. Rav Meir says you got to divorce her forever. Rav say divorce her until she finishes nursing. Who are you going to Avlocha, come on, no, but Ikra Meir, Amr Yotzi V'Loach Solam says you can never marry again. Ikra Abar Amr beget, give her a get right now. And therefore, he says, even though Rav is makel in a case of Yibam, where there was a trust, was the baby viable or not, and we say over there, if the baby died after 20 days, was it a baby departed from Yibam or not? Rav Shmuel says, give her chalitza to be sure, give her chalitza anyway now. But if he didn't, if she married somebody in the shuk, you don't have to give her chalitza if she married a Kohen. Why? Because it will ruin the marriage. We can go like the Rabbanan who say you don't need chalitza anyway. But over here, where you went against the rabbis and you married somebody who was nursing, even according to Rabbanan, you still need a get, and therefore there's no way out. And if it was a Kohen, it was a bad boy who married a woman who was nursing, he has to divorce her and he can't take her back anyway because he's a Kohen. You're going to maybe get Itmar. What happens if he married her within 30 days, within 3 months? She didn't wait. And he ran away. What would you say there, right? We put him in chayrim. We put him in chayrim until he has to divorce her. And one says, no, the fact that he ran away is enough. And that shows that he doesn't want to consummate the marriage. He's going to wait the 3 months. This isn't a regular case. This is not a case of nursing. This is a regular case. What's a regular case? The rabbi said you should always wait 3 months for avchana zera, right? To make sure whose child it is. If he didn't wait the 3 months, do you put him in chayrim until he divorces her, or is running away good enough? There was a mice of from the fact that he ran away shows that here's not a question of nursing and the baby will die with milk and all that there's not going to be, the milk will drop. Here's simply a question of you didn't wait the 3 months. The rabbi said wait 3 months between anybody who finishes a marriage, even if you know for sure they're not pregnant, whatever it is. The rabbi said wait 3 months, and he didn't wait 3 months. If he got engaged to her and he ran away, that's good enough. It shows that he's followed the rabbis. He's not going to consummate the marriage until after 3 months. All right, we'll pick him here tomorrow, Mr. Shem. Have a good day.